Good evening. The old man here, November 30th, 2024. Little update on the chickens. They're still outsmarting me. They're roosting on top of the coop every night. Trying to trick them to go in the morning by holding back on some feed, and hopefully, I figured if they went to bed kind of hungry and come up in the morning, they'd be pretty hungry, and feed them inside the pen, they'd go in. Well, the best I've been able to do is get 2, 3 to go in at a time out of like 7. So they wind up spending the night on top of the coop, and I feel kind of bad for them in a way, although they must not mind it too much because it's starting to get pretty cool out there. Tonight, it's 23 degrees. Thank God the wind laid down quite a bit. There isn't hardly any left here anyways. At least their night won't be too miserable. Wind's the big killer on something like that, really. So just thought I'd give you an update. Tonight I'd like to talk about gold and silver in the futures market and compare that versus, let's say, the physical silver. The futures market is what determines spot price. If you look across several different formats, whether it be SD bullion, JM bullion, or whoever, you'll see their spot is different. I don't know. Some claim that they're going by the ask price on futures. Some will say it's the sale price the sale price on futures. Some will even say they're going by a different market. So I don't know. I go by Kitco, and most of the industry goes by Kitco. But what I really want to talk about there tonight is that the markets can set spot, and it's well known that the big bullion banks, in fact, JP Morgan has been fined for doing it. They can put heavy short positions in, and they call it naked short, which means there's no real sale behind it, and then pull it at the last minute. But that drives the price of silver down, keeps it down, you can only drive a market so low before it's unbelievable. So that's why since, over the years, silver's come up in price, not value. Value's been the same. They can't alter that. But the price has come up over the years. You got to let it do that to a certain degree. And they do, but they don't let it get too high where it outshines the dollar. If it outshined a dollar and people started holding more silver, the average person, I think a lot of people here that are watching tonight are stackers, and they're looking for, either advice or they're looking for different methods of stacking. There's all kinds of things we might be looking for. I like to help sometimes people understand why it is what it is, why are things the way they are. The big thing about it is that I want to talk about tonight really is the spot price versus physical. Of course, when you buy silver, everybody that's selling silver goes by spot price, and then you're going to pay a premium on top of that. Depending on what you're buying. If you're buying a coin, like a U.S. Silver Eagle, you're going to pay more of a premium than you will anything else. That is the highest priced, or the coin with the highest premium on it is the American Silver Eagle. You'll pay less, but not a lot less, but you will pay less for the Canadian Maple Leaf. And then what seems to be less than that even would be the Philharmonic from Austria, I want to say. But at any rate, that seemed to have a lesser premium. But still, it's a coin from a country. It's a sovereign coin. So it's going to have a higher premium than, let's say, a generic buffalo. Generic buffalo doesn't have any face value. It's not made by a country or not minted by a country. It's minted by, actually, the buffalo is minted by several different mints all over the world, actually. And so, that's why your prices vary. Then you got U.S. constitutional pre-65 dimes or junk silver, or pre-65 coin, American coinage, or junk silver, whatever you want to call it. Lots of different terms for the same thing. It's just the industry. Everybody calls it something different. So at any rate, that's where that's at. And that, as of right now, has got a fairly low premium. It's not high. I would say you're not going to pay any more for that per ounce than you would pay for, let's say, a maple leaf. And the thing about U.S. constitutional, especially dimes, is it makes an ounce of silver more divisible. So in the future, if you do need to use it for barter or trade, in the future, what are you going to need the most? You're going to need change. You're not going to want to buy, let's say, 2 or 3 apples with 1 ounce of silver. No, you're going to come out on the short end of that stick. So maybe, a peck of apples is worth a dime, something like that, rather than trading an ounce of silver for that, because that's all you got is ounces. A lot of people want to have that fractional, and I consider pre-65 fractional silver. Takes 14 dimes to make an ounce, or $1.40 face value. You can take any coin, doesn't matter which one it is, of the American silver dollar, silver coinage pre-65, and you come up with $1.40, that's an ounce. So you could take 4 quarters and 4 dimes is $1.40, that's an ounce. You could take the Morgan silver dollar and 4 dimes, that's an ounce. Any way you want to do it, whatever. That the $1.40 winds up being an ounce of silver. And, they price that a couple different ways. But let me get back on track. What I wanted to talk about tonight is, right now we are fortunate, although the price of silver is up from, let's say, year and a half ago. Year and a half ago, I was paying a little higher premiums, but the spot price was lower, somewhat under $25. Never a lot under 25, but somewhat, maybe high 23s. But when it was 23, let's say 60, 70, 75, probably the lowest premium you're going to find, you're going to pay $25 an ounce, let's say. So the spot price might have been under that, but the premiums were a little bit higher, not very bad, but a little higher than they are today. And premiums seem to be going up as people are starting to see the cracks in the foundations of this system. So as demand becomes greater, the premiums go higher regardless of the spot price. Spot could go up for many different reasons. First of all, gold's a tier 1 asset. Spot silver's kind of, in a way, tied to gold. And what tends to happen is central banks and, family money, big family money, tend to buy gold as a safe haven asset. A certain percentage of portfolio, not a lot, but when things start to look tough, they start to go towards that paper gold. They'll put some there, and that tends to drive the gold up, the price of gold up, and they'll even buy physical gold too. I mean, whatever. It depends on what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. But typically, central banks hold very little gold, and countries tend to hold gold, to back up their money. To some degree. But, these family organizations, family money, they tend not to, in good times, tend to have very little physical gold. So when times starting to tighten up, start to look like they might be going south, and they definitely look that way at the moment, worldwide, not just not just in the U.S. So they're going to pick up more physical too. They're going to pick up more of that paper gold. So that tends to drive the price of gold up. And as things get hairier and hairier, some people are going to look like, well, that silver doesn't look too bad. Boy, I get a lot more silver for, let's say, $2,500 than I do gold. Or I'd say for American Silver Eagle or Gold Eagle, you're probably paying upwards of $2,700, thereabouts anyways, maybe even a little bit more right now. But for that 1 ounce of gold, I can buy a hell of a lot more silver, and it seems like a better deal. But at the end of the day, gold tends to be less volatile, and silver tends to be just that, volatile. People go in and out of their paper positions on silver a lot more often. But when it comes to premiums, that's a whole nother deal. When you've got things like the banks of California, was it 3 banks in California, collapsed in 23. They went down in March of 2023. All of a sudden, everybody thought, "Oh my God, I got to get some gold in my possession. I got to get some silver in my possession." Those that could afford, or maybe even the older people that know what they're doing, they're buying gold. They want to, take up less room, have more wealth stored in a smaller space. So they tend to buy more silver or more gold. And younger people, maybe in their 40s instead of their 60s and 70s, they'll buy, a fair amount of gold with whatever they've got to protect. And they'll buy some silver just because it's more speculative, and they figure they got time anyways. And so, they'll buy silver, and that kind of helps drive the silver price up. But in the case of a collapse, all of a sudden your premiums went through the roof. So as things get, and the reason I bring that up is as things start to get worse, and maybe it comes all at once, maybe it comes through, a few banks at a time fail, and those banks get bailed in, which means that the government's not going to bail them out this time. The taxpayer's not going to bail them out this time. The individual with anything over $200,000 in an account, they're going to bail in. That means they're not going to get their money. They're an unsecured creditor to the bank. Most people don't realize that when you deposit your fiat debt note that isn't yours in the first place, but you think it is because somebody gave it to you for services or goods or whatever, you deposit that in a bank, that's an unsecured loan. Okay, and if that bank account gets to be over $200,000, excuse me, you're going to lose whatever's over $200,000. The FDIC is going to cover the first $200,000. Theoretically, you start to get, tens of hundreds of banks go down at once. Well, the FDIC and insurance is out the window too, because it's just going to be it'd be like dominoes. Once them first few go and they can't do enough to bandage it up or cover it up, it's going to be like dominoes with them banks going down. They're so leveraged and they're so corrupt. It's just unbelievable what you'll find if you start researching that. I mean, I don't even want to go into it. It's so crazy. Just trust me. Well, don't trust me. Go look it for yourself. How corrupt the banking system is. It's just insane. But the problem's going to be, even if they do manage to half-ass control that paper market or the futures market, of which they can only control so much. But they'll be able to control it to a certain degree. But even at that, they're not able to control demand and therefore they can't control premiums. Getting back to that March and the failures of them 3 banks in California, right after that, there was a hell of a panic, a bunch of people, buying gold, a bunch of people buying silver. And like I said, back then I would say roughly, it was a little bit less than this, but let's say it was $25. It was close. It wasn't quite there. It was a little bit less than $25 per ounce. So an American Eagle would normally, if that's $25 an ounce, normally American Eagle's going to be $6, $7 more than that for a premium. So now you're up around, let's call it even $40, $41 for American Silver Eagle with that kind of premium, with a spot of 25, you're going to pay $30, $31, $32 for an American Eagle. Whether it's if you're buying a brand new one, you're going to pay a little more. If you're buying a secondary market where somebody has sold that Eagle back to a coin shop, that's got a little bit lesser premium on it. They're going to buy it farther back than they would if they than what they're going to pay wholesale for a new one. So they're going to be able to sell it a little cheaper too. But at any rate, spot was 25 roughly, not quite 25, but let's call it 25. With premiums, it was around $30 to $32, depending what you were buying. And in normal times, just prior to the collapse, you'd have been paying $31, $32. And after the collapse, American Silver Eagles were selling for almost $50. In fact, some companies were getting $50 for American Silver Eagle because they had them. Other places, they had them, then they didn't. They had them, then they didn't. But when they did have them, they were selling for let's say $48. But the guys that had them, they were asking $50, and it's like, well, if you don't like the price, that's okay. Somebody will buy it at $50, and I'm sure a lot of people bought it at $50, or they wouldn't have left it at that price. So it took a good long while for people to get over that scare. The mainstream media and the government and what have you did a pretty good job of covering that all up. Oh, nothing to see here. It wasn't that bad. It was just a couple of idiots in California. No big deal. Shit happens. Blah, 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 blah. And even though the Dodd-Frank Act says that banks are no longer supposed to be, or banks were no longer by law able to be bailed out, they had to be bailed in. Those banks were bailed out just to cover up the stupidity. So whoever had their money in that bank, no matter what the amount was in those accounts, and there were some big players in that bank where you think, $200,000, who the hell's got $200,000 in an account? Well, you take some of these big places that are out in California, these big businesses, some of this tech stock stuff, tech companies, let's say, they got well over $1 million, probably well over $1 million or $2 million in an account just to pay bankroll every week or every other week. So there was lots of them out there that had more than $200,000 more than $200,000 in the bank. In fact, they might have had a couple million in one account. And they were all bailed out. Nobody lost a dime. But that was to cover up the banking problem. The thing about it is, silver you can say is fairly reasonable right now at $30 an ounce and ish. I mean, it varies, don't get me wrong. I don't even know what it is today. I didn't even look before the video. I normally do, but I didn't look today. I'm thinking it was like maybe 30, 50 or something like that. But let's call it $30 an ounce right now. But if Monday 3, 4 more banks collapse, number one, that premium's going to go, or that spot's going to go up. That always pushes the market up. Might go to 35. We were at 35 not too long ago, so it's not hard to imagine it going back to 35 here in a minute or two. It isn't. I would say damn near by the end of the week, it'd be back up to 35. But what are premiums going to look like? Our premium's going to be another $35. Is it going to be $70 an ounce? So, in other words, spot's only at 35, but you got $35 premium on something like a Silver Eagle, and people think they got to have it. They're going to drive that, and there is a limited amount. And honestly, the U.S. government cut back on Silver Eagle production this year because more people are selling silver than buying silver, at least in the consumer sector. Now, that's not true worldwide. Worldwide, they're buying up silver production all over the place. Stackers are buying silver, sure. So that's part of the issue with the price of silver is stackers are buying. Places that are building solar panels are buying, like China, India. India traditionally buys a lot of silver anyways. It's big in their heritage, so they buy a lot of silver anyways all the time. So that keeps the market at a certain level. But man, these premiums. My biggest warning is, and you may not be thinking of this if you haven't been stacking for a long time, and that premiums can go insane overnight. All of a sudden, you might think, well, there's no way in hell spot's going to go from $35 to $70. I've been watching the market. It's really slow. We gain a few dollars, we lose a few dollars. We gain $4 or $5, we lose $2 or $3. Yeah, it's going up slow, but I don't see it getting to $70. That's going to be a long ways away. Well, spot, that might be true. It might take a long time to get to $70 on spot. But I don't think it's too hard to believe with a bank collapsing, or 2 or 3 banks collapsing somewhere, and people starting to get bailed in instead of bailed out. That's going to put a fear of God in a lot of people, and a lot of money's going to come out of these banks. There's going to be lots of withdrawals. And today, you don't have to go to the bank. In fact, I could be sitting here right now at the kitchen table. If I wanted to get rid of money out of a bank account, all I would have to do, not that I promote buying from the big companies, I promote buying from your local coin shops. But if I had to get rid of this money, I thought, oh man, I don't like what I see coming Monday morning. I want my account empty. I'd just buy a bunch of silver or gold, maybe even gold, from, let's say, one of the big boys, SD Bullion or Jam Bullion, or one of them guys. I'd buy a bunch of gold that night. By the time they could put any fail-safes in place and stop that transfer of money, my money would get 99% chance my money would get transferred before the bank shut everything down. It's going to take them a minute Monday morning to figure out what's going on and what are we going to do about it. It's going to take more than a minute. It's going to take 4 or 5 hours. There's plunge protection team in the U.S. government. You've got Janet Yellen as of right now. You're going to have somebody else here in the future, but you got Janet Yellen. She's going to make decisions whether things are bailed in, bailed out, or how we're going to cover this up. So at the very least, it's going to take 4 or 5 hours, even if it does kind of start to go sideways on a Monday morning. But I'd have a pretty good chance to get my money out of that bank. However, if I seen it coming. But however, if I had to go to that bank and stand in line on Monday morning, by the time I got to my account or got to the teller, that money would be gone. All they'd have to say, well, we don't know what the hell's going on, so we're just going to close the doors until tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. But if like I said, electronically, I could more than likely be able to transfer that money out of the bank. Or if I had my money in one bank and I think it's in trouble and it's going down, with not much more than the click of a mouse, I can transfer it over to another bank. Again, it's going to take them a few hours that day. If you see it coming, it'd take you a few hours, but you could get that money, more than likely get that money transferred out of the bank before they shut the system down of that bank. So, it's possible. So a bank run, actually, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, bank run's pretty easy now, where back in the Depression, it was pretty tough. You'd stand in line for 10 or 12 hours, and they really weren't going to give you nothing. That's all there was to it. Well, that's my thoughts for tonight. I just wanted to kind of, make you think about, or help you think about, I should say, not make you, but help you think about uh, the price of silver and how fast, with premiums, how fast the price of silver really can go up. So, if you think that things are getting worse out there, yeah, it's great that we got Donald Trump in, don't get me wrong. And I have a lot of hope for the country, but there's a whole lot of crap to get through before we get there. Again, I think we got the best chance of all the other countries to make through this thing. And yeah, it's going to be ugly, but it's not going to be as ugly as some of these countries. So anyways, that's what I got for tonight. Thank you. Appreciate you listening. If you would like, subscribe, and please leave a comment. Love seeing the comments. And again, it really helps me come up with ideas for new videos, kind of what people are thinking about. So have a great night, guys. Thank you. Bye.